Istanbul Technical University Game Design and Development Club. Uh, let's start with you introducing yourself. You and told about yourself to our audience. Okay.
Hello, my name is Simran Witten and I'm the Head of Player Engagement and Community Management at Milky Tea Studios, the developers behind HyperBrawl and Coffin Dodgers, based in Liverpool, UK.
Okay. Did you have any teammates to develop this game, or did you work alone?
Yeah, so we're actually a whole team of developers. Our team ranges from anywhere between 12 to 18 developers at any point. HyperBrawl's been a long journey over the past 4 years for us as a studio. So this game was made for the past 4 years. It started off as a game jam, ironically. So it just started off as a game jam between 4 developers, and then we started to build around the game, and then basically we got a lot of traction. We started taking the game to a lot of shows, big conventions, and then we noticed that there was a real resonance with the audiences. People were having fun playing it. A lot of people started saying it felt like Rocket League mixed with human people. And from that point on, when we started getting that really, really nice, cohesive feedback and positive feedback from audiences, we decided to take the game forward as a full-blown event. And then Tencent actually came on. Tencent is a massive video game finance publisher. They came on board to the company and actually supported the project as a publisher and an investor within Milky Tea Studios. So from that point on, we was really able to knuckle down, and it was just possible to make our dream a reality and develop HyperBrawl into the game it is today.
Great. Would you introduce your team?
Yes. So to name all of them for you, there is myself, there's producer Kevin Campbell, there's the CEO and creative director Jonathan Holmes, there's producer Kelvin Brown, there's game designer Scott Swarsbrick, there's programmer, honestly, there's so many people at this company. There's one of the programmers called Pete, one of the artists called Tom. Pete was an artist. There's two. Chris is a programmer. Pete's an artist. We also have Tom, who's another programmer. We have Stephen, who is another programmer. We've got Eli, one of our game designers. We've got Alex, who's another Unity programmer. There's myself from the marketing team. And then we also have the lovely Christy Wang, who's basically like our studio coordinator and basically looks after us all and makes sure that the studio isn't setting on fire.
When I looked up to your HyperBrawl tournaments page, it was a really good name. It was a really nice looking game.
Thank you.
Would you explain your game to our audience?
Yeah, so HyperBrawl is basically, imagine if Mario Strikers and Speedball had a child together. They were some of our biggest influences, mixed with Rocket League, of course. Because for us, one of the biggest things is we wanted to create a casual sports experience, because outside of some of the main titles and some of the bigger names within the sports category, you don't see a lot of independent sports games enter the genre, especially on Steam. And we wanted to basically become a hybrid between making players have a nice casual experience where they could sit with their friends, play online, play locally, or just play on their own, but also just be able to have this nice sports element aspect of it. For us, HyperBrawl is one of those games, and the popular saying amongst the studio is, it's very easy to pick up, but it's very difficult to master, similar to something like Rocket League, and that's kind of what we wanted to go for. We wanted to kind of create the ultimate handball experience.
I'm sure you get this question a lot, what is the unique selling point of this game?
I would say personally, there's quite a few, but for us, there's massive amounts of replayability. You've got over 8 maps to choose from. You've got over 8 characters to choose from, each with their own unique abilities and their own unique stats. Each character plays differently. You've also got something what we call the hypercurve, which is one of our biggest USPs. And what the hypercurve is, allows you to control the ball even after you've thrown it. So if you're throwing the ball mid-air, you can actually still control the ball even after it's been released through unique physics that we have available. And that's something we're quite proud of, because it's a very unique thing that you don't see many games implement, especially sports games. And we feel that's what really sets HyperBrawl aside from most sports titles, is the fact that the player has to be very tactical in how they approach the game, but they also still have that chance of controlling the ball even after they've thrown it. Whereas something like, say, FIFA, when you kick the ball, or Rocket League, when you do your maneuver and you boost the ball somewhere else, you lose kind of that element of control. Whereas with here, you always control the ball and the match whenever you leave or throw the ball.
Okay, great. I want to ask you, at the start of all of this, start of the development process of this game, what made you start to develop this game, and what was the starting point?
So yeah, just to touch upon my previous point, the game actually started off as a game jam. So we were doing a game jam in the studio, and we threw around a few different ideas because we basically did a week-long game jam where we made several games within that 1 week. And then HyperBrawl was one that we really found the team resonated with and the team really, really enjoyed with. So we started taking it to more shows. We started taking it to things like Insomnia, EGX, some of these very, very big conventional shows. And then we found that the general public really responded well to the game, and we got a lot of positive feedback. People were asking, were we going to make this into a full developed game? Were we going to do much with it? And then we started to think, you know what, we think there's a market for this. So we started doing our research, and we noticed that there's kind of an untapped market within the sports genre. A lot of people don't really make sports games. And it's kind of like an empty sort of playing field, pun intended, that you could kind of jump into. And we thought, we want to make this game that we made in a game jam become a reality. So we pursued it as a full team. Tencent came on board as an investor. They've been absolutely fantastic with us. And they've enabled us to get this project onto multiple platforms, including Apple Arcade, which was the original platform we launched on. And we received overwhelmingly positive reviews, overwhelmingly positive just reactions from Apple Arcade. And from there, it's just been absolutely fantastic to go onto other platforms.
Okay, let's spice up the questions. From out of all the games you and your team can develop, why this one?
Why we made this one? As I said, it comes back to the time when when we were doing the game jam, we had multiple ideas that we kind of just threw around. But with this game, we felt there was something special with it, seeing people's reactions. It was the one game that got the most positive reactions from the general audience in the gaming community, not just from us as developers. Because as developers, we tend to have like a very, very attachment to the products that we make, but we wanted to see how the people actually reacted to the different games. And HyperBrawl got a really, really positive reaction during its early stages. And that really inspired us to take the game forward and just make it into the best possible game it could be. It's actually based off a real sport as well that was played in ancient Greece, which is actually still played out to this day, funnily enough. So there is actually a bunch of true elements that the game is inspired by. And for us as developers, it was just something we were really passionate about seeing come to life. So that's why we chose to go through with it.
So you said you start developing this game in a game jam.
Yeah.
What is the actually not like that. From the game jam version, from your original version, how did the game change?
Oh, it's been through a lot of changes, to be honest with you. So if you go back all the way throughout the game's history, there's tons of YouTube videos that have shown it. The art style has changed, the mechanics have changed. With this being a very, very physical game, by that I mean there's a lot of movement that's required, a lot of tactical decisions required by the player. With it being a sports game, movement, animation, the way the game felt went through a lot of iterations. I say it's the same with any game, really. Games go through periods where they fluctuate up and down. Like 1 minute they're fun, the next they're not. You do a lot of QA testing. You identify what parts are resonating with players. And from that point on, it's gone through a lot of changes. As I say, it was originally just 4 arenas when we started making the game, but then we made 12 arenas when the final launch product. It's been through change after change. I say we made the game for 4 years, so it went on for quite some time. And in that time, we've seen everything from features that we tried to implement that we thought were kind of unbalanced. The art style changed very dramatically for the better because we're really, really happy with the art style. We did some really, really good work with that sort of stuff. And engine as well, you know, we use Unity a lot. Unity introduced new tools throughout it that we were able to utilize to make the game even more fun. So the game has changed significantly over the last 4 years. I would hope so anyway. I hope we don't launch the same game we made a year ago in the first year.
All right. Our audiences also would wonder about the technical aspects of this development process. You already said you used Unity for developing this game. Did you work on the other engines or just Unity?
No, our studio has always been Unity. I actually myself come from an Unreal background. So I was kind of like the new kid on the block when I joined. I brought the fresh perspective. There's only myself and one of the other designers on the team, Eli, who have used Unreal Engine in the past. But Milky Tea as a studio has always been using Unity as just our like sort of major engine. But to be honest, we're open to other engines. Like we're open to exploring those different types of things. But our team is quite skilled in Unity. It's what they know. It's their strengths, and we like to play to our strengths.
Okay. I will also ask you about the art style of the game. Hani, what is the art style of the game, and what did it inspire you to make the game look like that?
There's a lot of different things. So the game's art style has gone through a lot of change. To go back to your previous question about what's changed throughout it, the game's art style has changed so dramatically. But if I had to give you a big inspiration, 90s cartoons are one of our biggest inspirations. So we actually have a trailer on our Steam page, a website, and on loads of other places you can find it, where we actually have this beautifully rendered out 90s cartoon cutscene that shows off that sort of era, those early Saturday morning cartoons were a big inspiration for us. But in terms of an actual art style, we wanted to make the game feel familiar to people, but also with the game having such a unique setting, being set in the multiverse where all these different universes are coming together to fight each other in these arenas. We could be a bit more flexible with the art style because it was set in space and it wasn't adhered to the rules of modern reality. So we didn't have to go realistic. And when we went with a very sort of stylized art style, we basically could do a lot more with it. So we could have unique characters, we could have different species, we could go mental as we want basically. And having that unique stylized art style allowed us to be way more creative with the levels, which we're quite happy with. The levels did come out very, very unique.
Uh, it sounds lovely.
Thank
Uh,
you.
what programs did you use to develop these art elements of the game?
So a lot of our artists use stuff everything between Substance Designer, Substance Painter. A lot of it can be done in Photoshop. Our artists are open to trying many different types of techniques, but at the end of the day, optimization is a big one. So a lot of our stuff is actually hand done in Photoshop because that's really, really good for optimizing in a video game. Whereas if you make your own materials and import that, then you have to optimize those quite heavily. And with our team having a lot of very talented artists on them, a lot of it is actually done in Substance Designer, Painter, or a lot of it's just hand painted in Photoshop and Illustrator because we can really help play to our strengths there. We have an artist on the team called Aidan who's absolutely phenomenal at hand painted artwork, and he was just absolutely fantastic on the project.
What about the 3D models?
I say a lot of the textures for that. Oh, sorry, did you mean when you
Models
said the art style? Did you mean the overall
overall,
3D art
yeah.
style? Yeah, yeah. So we use a lot of everything from Substance Painter, Designer, and Photoshop. So a lot of the 2D artwork was created purely in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, but actually the materials in the game have all been made through stuff like I say. Sorry, I'm repeating myself a little bit here. Substance Designer, Painter, and again hand drawn materials in Photoshop because that stuff's really, really good to use in Unity. Because when you're using Unity, Unreal is more of say an artist's engine. It can handle more art heavy assets, but Unity
Yeah.
obviously in terms of art assets, Unity is more of a technical engine than an artistic engine. And for that, we basically chose to go kind of the hand painted route.
Okay. About the audio aspects of your game, what did you use to create them, and what is the tech overall feel of the musics or and
So,
soundtracks?
yeah, it's funny you brought it. So, the music is something we're very proud of. So, we are actually one of the few indie developers to ever get their soundtrack released on Sony Music, Apple Music, and Spotify. We did what was called a unique partnership with legendary music composer Steve Levine. He's a very, very world renowned music composer and just basically the audio designer. Like, he's very, very world famous. And it was an absolute privilege to work with him. He's worked with people like the Beastie Boys, this was his first ever video game, and he just absolutely blew it out of the park. There's a whole documentary that you can watch on our YouTube channel, The Music of HyperBrawl, where Steve Levine goes into the sort of themes that he wanted to communicate, where he basically what he wanted each sound in the game to convey. And we partnered with Sony Music to do that. And again, that was a huge privilege for us because no indie developer gets an opportunity like that. So in terms of the sound design, it was a very, very unique collaboration between loads of different entities coming together to release the soundtrack on its own. Because we believe the soundtrack, even without the game, warrants merit on its own. Like, it's an absolutely phenomenal soundtrack. And working with Steve Levine was an absolute pleasure. The man was an absolute master at his craft.
Well, I finished my questions, but
Oh,
I'm sure there were a lot I did forget to ask. So, did you want to add anything?
yeah, so I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me on. Firstly, it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you, my friend. And to anyone who wants to check out HyperBrawl tournament, just feel free to drop us a message on HyperBrawl or Milky Tea. We have every possible social channel imaginable that you can think of. from Twitch to Twitter, Discord, Facebook, we've even got TikTok, you name it, we've basically got a platform and we're happy to answer any questions. Or if you want to just know anything what it's like to be a game developer, we're a very open studio. Like, we have a very one-to-one relationship with our audiences and we love speaking to people. So if anyone has any questions about game development, our games, anything like that, please feel free to hit us up, because I love talking to people. It's my job after all.
Yeah, of course. Well then, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I hope to meet you with another interviews later, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And see ya.
See you, pal. Thank you very much.